Pinkerton's Ghosts is a horror anthology podcast by Superversive Radio, with no affiliation with any detective agency, person, real or imagined, or the dark forces of Outre-Terre. It is not intended for children.
Jack Morrow here. The first sign I knew there was a problem is Control's message. Jack, a terrorist bombed a Masonic convention and put your name on the manifesto. Get scarce. Unfortunately, I was seeing to Mr. Henderson's paperwork at my office. The kid had flubbed a land permit for the local politicians, and I was looking through it to see how much lawyer we needed, or if it just meant waiting in line for the proper document. Of course, the office is in my name. It's one of the few things that aren't connected to trusts under different names or titles. Not even I know the complete list. I have a vague idea, but I do know the hobo signs my great-granddad used to mark our territory. Of course, none of it is safe now. I have been of the opinion that the reason Jeremiah Pike, my father, doesn't burn me out of the Ozarks is that I'm territorial in my day-to-day. Even though I've been on missions for the Paranormal Pinkertons all over the place, I've never felt right about it. If I'm cornered, I might make a break and start really causing damage, is what I assume they're saying to each other. I don't know what it is about evil, but the second they have dominance, they get slothful. The only reason I haven't gutted my father like a fish is that I don't know where he is. Can't follow a trail if you don't know where the trail is. Someday, I'll find something. Then he'll pay. Until then, I'll snuff out every trace of the Grand Masons I can find. I had 5 minutes of warning before I saw the red and blue flashing lights. Of course, I keep nothing important in my office. There's barely enough information there to prove my properties have a tax footprint, much less that the taxes are being paid. Of course they were. I'm not stupid. I'm just saying that the auditors will need a Sherpa and a willingness to let good nerds die trying to figure out just who is paying taxes. They're being paid, I swear. Honest. I had Mr. Henderson leave the area. He understood. Good man. I slipped out the back in the last seconds. Despite my security, I didn't want to make things easy on them. Unfortunately, the Unismasher was nearby in a grocery store parking lot. I had to slip out into the forest. There were 5 state police cars between me and my car. I decided to let it ride for now and instead let them alone. The troopers broke down my door faster than I liked, but they ran out just as fast when they saw I wasn't there. A few walked into the nearby forest and called for dogs. I was already moving back, out of sight, but I heard their commands. I needed to get out of the area until the search was over. It was too soon for helicopters, and with luck, they'd never catch wind of me. I decided to trust that they wouldn't find my car before, say, the grocery store closed at 10 p.m. Of course, that wasn't a guarantee. But you'd be surprised what you can get away with just by acting like you're not the target of a developed manhunt. They're not expecting me to come out of a grocery store they probably already checked. It went well at first. Before 7 p.m., I hit a set of strip malls and neighborhoods. These islands would slowly chain themselves back around to the store less than a mile away. I hadn't seen the police in hours. Of course, I was a little complacent. 5:30 to 6:30 had me crawling through the muck to avoid a patrol car. Things happen. I even had some blood left over after the mosquitoes got to me. The strip malls were mostly closed at this hour. The nearest half was dedicated to some medical facility. One of those urgent care places that popped up to service people without hospital tier prices. Maybe. The signs were gone. It had an edge to it. An aura. But beggars can't be choosers. I ran into the back when I heard a whoop whoop of a distant police car. They saw me, but I didn't know how much they saw. The medical building had a door with a stripped security panel. They were closing the place out. The lock was a simple dial. Rookie mistake, but to my benefit. These things have a keyhole in the back, just in case. There are automatic lockpicks these days, for simple ones. A couple $100 is a steep price to pay, but when your life is on the line, worth it. I closed the door before the headlights turned the corner. Slamming is, was, and it will be, ever, a rookie mistake. They passed by, but then stopped. The two popped out of their car. I could hear their boots crunch on gravel. They were by the forest behind the strip mall. Maybe they thought I ran that way? Who knew? Maybe a hobo is about to lose his little hidey hole. I took stock. I was in a back room that was being used as a janitor's closet. I went deeper into the building. I thought it was because I hadn't eaten since Mr. Henderson had brought me his special honey-glazed pulled pork sandwiches on freshly baked buns, nor because of the heat kicking in the teeth of the countryside. No, I don't really get nauseous. My eating habits aside, I exercise constantly. I don't get winded until I pass miles and start counting parts of a marathon. Stamina is everything in this job, just like it was everything for prehistoric man. If you don't have a steady hand to take the shot after chasing down a quarry, you're dead. And there will be more victims. I've felt places like this before. I stared into a corridor with doctors' offices on every side, down to the L turn. I don't know what it was. I had a feeling. Tons of feelings. Probably too many feelings. But there was something here. It was twisting something inside me, like I was being drawn in, but it wasn't really right. Imagine someone lightly clocks your head with an elbow while pointing. Something was happening here. I didn't like it, and I couldn't burn it down without drawing attention to myself. I heard two police cars pull up behind the other one. They had no reason to check the door yet, but I couldn't lock it. The windows had been boarded up in the front. It's easier to look out than in, after all. I could reconnoiter and then make a break for it. It was reasonable for me to take the shortest route to the entrance. There were unspeakable things happening. Something was trying to push on my mind. I needed to find that source. If I couldn't, I'd burn this place to the ground. I thought about what knives might be the best for the bloody work. The more precise, the better. The front door was a simple waiting room. The chairs were still there, a secretary desk still arrayed with a powerless computer. When I stepped into the room proper, I felt the atmosphere change once again. It was like a heavy blanket draped over me. Like something clicked. My mind is not particularly resistant to control or manipulation. I don't have a share in magic like Jim or a ring like Sean's. I require outside assistance. I have no answer to counter high strangeness, but I can feel it stick its tendrils into me. If I can feel it, I can blunt its power over me, so long as it is a suggestion rather than a command. The suggestion was that life really wasn't precious, but mine was. It demanded that my life, its joys, its pleasures, were more important than the lives of others. Selfish? No. Wise. I had to accept that I and my actions were justified to preserve the most important thing in this world. Myself. It went on, demanding that I, and not God, be the center of the universe. Perhaps if I didn't have the experience I did, I'd fall to it immediately. But it wasn't a command. It was not being commanded soul to soul. No one was dominating me. It was a soft hand, a velvet fist with iron bones. I could say no. It's not like it could do anything to me. The feeling was offended. I'd be laughingstock in my society, which, because I'm a loner, implied that the family of possums, Mr. Henderson, the old Shawnee, and a collection of lonesome families that have retreated from the world to squat on my land is a society. I have it on good authority that most of them would be offended if I thought of them as my social circle. And honestly, so was I. Though quite a few of them would be approving of wanton violence against the system. I let feelings guide me into one of the rooms. I'm about to kill something. The effect isn't sentient by any means. It was just playing on things within my mind. It was like a child playing with blocks. It could build with the parts, but it could not demand. It was feminine. A cashier complaining about 14 items in a 13-item lane. You could ignore them. They could get offended. But the manager isn't going to throw you out for it. All the offense, no power. Well, if you don't give it to him. My mother was absolutely shocked when I told her no when I was a kid. Then I hurt myself and nearly put a bullet in my leg. Of course, I told her no again later, but I did maintain trigger discipline. It's not a matter of pride or humility. I'm my own person. This thing beating at the door of my free will was nothing if I didn't let it in. I entered the appointed room. It was a chair with footrests set at head height. Specialty chairs are expensive, and if certain medical procedures are performed, they might be called medical waste and be thrown out with the rest. If they're honest about it. It clicked. This was an abortion mill, hidden in a strip mall, just quiet, part of the system, but not. Missouri's clinics died slowly before the bans. They probably got out while the getting was good. Pity. Thank God they left, but there are always skulkers in the shadows. If they were using arcane means to guide panicking and emotional girls, or hardened vamps with dead eyes, the shadows here roiled at my presence. I wasn't expected. They rolled over each other like waves as the occasional flashing police light passed by. They wanted someone to come here, kill their child so they can feast on whatever they eat. Maybe feast isn't the right word. They got something out of this place. It fed them, made them bold and powerful. For those who are sensitive to the spiritual war, saints and artists, and those with a drop of blood from the forces of Outreterre, the more death is spread, the more they feel it. I left the room. This wasn't the source. These were carrion eaters. My shadow took more than a few seconds to follow me. If anything's trying to hitch a ride, I'm sure you'll enjoy it when I go to church. As with the suggestions, they only have as much power as you give them. Sure, they whisper things. Eat that snack too many. Drink that beer too many. Look at pornography. But you don't have to do it. You don't have to. If you're a Christian and you recognize the call of evil, it'll be hard. These things sound good, feel good. Wrath against your enemies sounds good, feels good. Are you hating your enemy because they hate you? Or do you hate them because it feels good to blame an outside force? You are primed to hate them. When you realize the existence of the empire of lies, the empire without borders, but to remove the flowery metaphors, Satan's kingdom run by his servants. At some point, I want to love my father before I see him dead by my hand or anyone else's. He deserves death. I must tear down his organization and burn it out. I've thought about it, though. Looked into the future after Jeremiah Pike. There will be others, hangers-on, promotions after his death, little leeches growing fat off my father's works, and then someone else will be Jeremiah Pike. Except, different. A witch woman, a Russian oligarch with a space station, a Turk obsessed with reviving the Ottomans, the crypto-Byzantine emperor, and a new Roman Empire, the Battle Pope. I'm a realist. I'm sure the Battle Pope in the Pope Mecca will just be as vulnerable to bullets as my father hopefully is. But that isn't something I can care about. I care about Jeremiah Pike and how to find him. The Battle Pope will be Sean's problem. He is a Catholic after all. I'll be supportive. If I love Jeremiah Pike, I am more like Christ. But it doesn't mean I can't put an end to his evil deeds. I found the basement. A shock in a strip mall, but not a surprise for the mill. The ceiling of the basement was thin and not up to code. They couldn't go deep, but they did what they could. I found the waiting room. The ceiling was painted with witchy gobbledygook. I'm not even going to describe it. A schizophrenic inhaled enough red paint to make Cronenberg sweat and then started to sneeze. It had meaning because something had attached to it, not because the Barnes & Noble Necronomicon symbols have power. The circles led to hallways, just as I had been led upstairs, and I followed them to a wooden wall. It was the work of a moment to pull off the planks. Within was a statue. A vaguely human form pointed up and pointed down. The hands were well carved, but not the body. The fingers broke the ceiling and likely was connected to the chair above. The smell of dried blood had faded, but I got close enough to smell it. There were channels that wound through the body, and another well-carved hand pointed into the concrete under it. The meaning was clear. As above, so below. Sure thing, buddy. It's just a pity I didn't know about this while you were operating. The unsaved will devour any lie a Satan worshipper will tell them, just because it makes them feel smart or better or whatever they want. It's all the introspection of something like alchemy, but none of the wisdom that comes from seeking God. You can't make yourself a better person through sin. Put whatever you want over it. Explain it away. Pass laws. It's all about sending people to hell. There's no chain stronger than the ones you willingly put on yourself. I ransacked the janitor's closet for interesting chemicals and prepared to add more arson to the long list of crimes federal prosecutors would love to charge me with. I ran for it when the jerry-rigged fuse went off. The police were more or less starting to leave then. The fire pushed them into action. I'll give them credit, they got the building evacuated fast. Unfortunately, that also meant that the 10 or so gawkers who came out of Dollar General provided me cover. I made it to the Unismasher in good time. There were a couple cops watching my office as they ransacked it. No one was looking at the store. I slipped the clerk smoking pot a 20, and he let me in the back. I bought some snacks, an energy drink or two, and then walked out like it was an average Tuesday. I got in my car and drove off. I'm going to go to ground for a bit. Let me know what you find, Control. I'll call Pitt and St. Devay when I'm secure. I'm eager to set things right. Jack Morrow, out.
Pinkerton's Ghosts is a podcast distributed by Superversive Radio, licensed under an attribution non-commercial, share-alike international license. This episode was written by Ben Wheeler and is performed by the same. Ben Wheeler edits, directs, produces, and herds cats. Kim Dickerson performs our audio editing. Visit us on Facebook, read articles on superversivesf.com, or listen to us on unauthorized Acast, iTunes, or Spotify. Contact us through Twitter at @PinkertonsGhosts, email us at pinkertonsghosts@gmail.com, or send us noble messenger possums with messages strapped to their backs. Don't worry, they know how to find us. Thank you for listening, and good luck.